All right, students. Hello. Hi. Welcome to Pathways. Who's gone to 2 already?
I got a 1.
1. All right. Anyone gone to 3? You know how
This is my 3rd.
The 3rd?
You've heard us a
Anyone
lot.
gone to 4?
You do a lot.
Yeah, you've seen us every time. We have to change it up for you.
Oh. Well, I think there's like 20 or something, so you have plenty more to go to. We're the School of Interdisciplinary Arts and Sciences, and we're here to talk to you about some majors in particular, but broadly about interdisciplinary arts and sciences. We'll introduce ourselves. Maybe we'll start with our acting dean.
So I'm Ben Gardner. I'm a professor in IAS. I teach classes in global studies, environmental studies, cultural studies, and I'm currently the acting dean in IAS.
Good. My name's Caleb Trujillo. I'm a new professor, assistant professor in data analysis and visualization. I'm working with the mathematical thinking and visualization majors most, the MTV, and I teach statistics and data visualization.
Yeah, my name's Midya. I'm a student. I'm majoring in law, economics, public policy, and media and communications with a minor in human rights.
So everyone, my name is Trevor Choi, and I major in media and communication studies, and I'm a senior.
Hi everybody, I'm Jessica Turnkamp. I'm one of the IAS advisors. I advise on many majors.
Same. My name is Eva Navrijo. I advise for all of our environment majors, our mathematical thinking, our science technology, and sometimes a few others. So we have students and faculty, and we are going to lead you through an exercise about interdisciplinary studies. Yeah?
Yeah. So we're gonna talk just a little bit about what makes IAS unique, and I think partly to do that, we're gonna ask you. You weren't told you were gonna have homework, but we're gonna ask you just do a little bit of a little exercise real quick. So if you could pull out a piece of paper, or if you want to type, that's fine. We're just gonna ask you to think a teeny bit, and we're just gonna give you 30 seconds. And so the question we have is what's one new idea or new thing you've learned about this class, in this class so far, that you want to know more about? Okay, so take 30 seconds to just jot down some quick ideas about one thing you've learned so far in this class that you are curious about, that you want to know more about. Okay, so just to get, you can finish your sentence or your thought, or just put ... And just turn to your neighbor. If you're in the front row, turn behind you, and just for another 30 seconds, just share what you wrote, or if you were starting to develop an idea. So just take 30 more seconds, turn to your neighbor, turn around, talk to somebody, share what you wrote. You can do groups of 3 if you need to. All right, so I'll stop you there. And what we're going to do is we just want to hear a little bit from you, and then as each of the students and faculty tell you a little bit about IAS, they might also talk about how IAS might approach some of the questions and things you're thinking about currently. So can we just get some ideas? And it's nice, you've talked to your neighbor, so if you're a little shy to share, you could share what your neighbor said. So maybe, how about back here? What are some of the things you guys talked about? How about back here in the end? What did you guys talk about?
I just kind of talked about like why are e-courses so like suggested?
Okay.
That's kind of
Okay, so like why, like what's special? What? All right, let's see if we can build on that. So what are you curious about? What are you thinking about in this class that you want to know more about? How about somewhere in the back here?
Person in green beanie.
Yes. Okay. How about here? Great. Yeah.
I said, how can social media make such a big impact on the world?
Okay. So this question about the role of social media. Okay. Great. What about up here? What did you guys talk about?
And I said I learned from this class like teamwork is very important, because I thought like when I'm missing class, I have to text my teammate like what today is like class, what do you guys learn, and they tell me.
Okay, great. So what's the role of teamwork and collaboration? That's probably going to come up a lot. Excellent. What else? What about in the middle here? What did you guys talk about? Yes?
Since we're like covering a bunch of content, I learned about multiple podcasts and TV shows that I didn't know about before.
So you're learning about places to get ideas like TV shows. How might we use TV shows and podcasts to think about the production of knowledge? Okay, great. How about something from up here?
we wanted to know about careers for these majors.
Great. So careers, so what careers can you do with these majors? What are students doing to think about careers? What does IAS do to help you prepare about careers? Yeah,
We
great.
also didn't really know what IAS was.
Okay,
We'd like to know about that.
you're gonna find out about that, yeah.
Fantastic.
I asked, how has the modern age of streaming changed the world and politics?
The modern age of streaming.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're learning a little bit about your class here. So all these questions about media communication, so we might be able to think about how does that connect up to some of the majors today. So that's great. So I think what we'll do is we'll ask our students and faculty to just talk a little bit about what you think makes IAS unique and special, and if you want to pull a thread from what you're hearing from the class and kind of weave that in as well, that would be great. Do you want to start, Caleb?
Good, yeah. So I'm a new professor here, so I'm learning the ropes too. What does IAS mean? What I notice about the faculty is that they all come from different traditions of how they were trained, and they're quite comfortable in crossing boundaries. So I think at the heart of interdisciplinarity is being able to face a problem or a situation or an issue and not be afraid to like go beyond the normal ways of solving a problem. So in IAS, that means like a lot of like asking questions that are not always straightforward or easy, but being resourceful, relying on teamwork, and working collaboratively to understand what the situation is you're working on. So,
Great.
Yeah, so what I like about IAS is that you can kind of tweak it to you. It's not, I remember when I was in my BS 300 class and the dean came in and kind of did this visual thing where he walked. And he was like, if you're gonna do like a science, major, you're gonna probably like hit the same like stepping stones, like you're gonna walk in like a similar path. But IAS, you can kind of like choose your path. It's like choose your own adventure kind of. And so I ended up getting like a double major in minoring because of because of my advisor, but also because I found out that I could actually major and minor in things that I thought were interesting. So for me, I wanted to work in law, but I also am really interested in media, so I ended up picking up the MCS major. And that one is really interesting, especially if you guys are talking about issues of like social media and the internet and like how that's transforming our society. We talk a lot about that in my classes. And so there's like different avenues that you can go, and it's pretty common, I think, in IAS to double major, so really you can kind of like tailor your degree to your interests, and there's a ton of jobs that you'll be able to do with these skills because it's really about like gaining different skills. So in a lot of IAS degrees, you're going to getting a lot of like critical thinking skills, like writing skills, public speaking, things that are going to help you in any sort of job setting. So yeah.
Yeah, that's what I would say, like, the degrees in IAS is basically like a long range, like, high school. So basically, it allows you to think like accurately and wildly to your future career or your majors as well. And as well as like, so IAS is like art and sciences, right? So basically, you can choose like either like science field more or art field more, and it really depends on you. But I would say that just choose what you want to do, and it actually helps you to brainstorm like what you really like.
Great, thanks. Do you guys want to add something?
One of you were like, why is B Corps so important? So many of us graduate from high school thinking we know, like, oh, I want to be this job, or you think you have an understanding of all the jobs that are out there. In reality, there are so many jobs that we don't even know about, like until you stumble across somebody doing that work, or you read about somebody doing amazing things related to X, Y, and Z, and you're like, what? Somebody gets paid for that? B Corps is really trying to get you to think broadly about all of the opportunities available to you, not just in your academic learning, but in the ways that you could apply what you learn in the classroom outside of the classroom, and sometimes get paid for it. So IAS loves B Corps because so many of us are like, I'm going to be a veterinarian, I'm going to go be a scientist, or I'm going to be an accountant, right? There's so much more that you can do in the world, but still also work at an accounting firm, at a veterinarian's hospital or clinic or whatever. And I can't remember my other example, but that one too. And so we really want students at Bothell to have a full understanding of all of the opportunity available to them and then decide a major that matches their strengths, matches their passions, and matches, whatever they want for a career. So many pathways into business and tech are available to you through IAS. One of the unique and fun majors in IAS is mathematical thinking and visualization. What you can think about it sometimes is a communications degree specifically for STEM. There are a lot of companies and organizations that do things with numbers or data or something quantitative. Their customers sometimes aren't going to look through an Excel sheet and figure out like, oh, I can see that there's a trend here. MTV students are learning how to take really raw, big sets of data and make it presentable so that a story can be told. And what I love about that is that that's like a perfect bridge of arts, visualizations, and aesthetics, and then like the science STEM stuff, the data, that crunching numbers and looking at statistical trends. I'm not going to look at you, because I don't actually know what I'm saying when it comes to stats, but it's that good bridge. And how many of you knew that like mathematical thinking and visualization was a major here at Bothell? It's just not something that maybe is so readily apparent. So I would say in response to the B Corps thing, there's just a lot of opportunity to explore all of your options at Bothell through B Corps.
Should we, maybe Caleb, do you want to just give an example or two of the sorts of things students might be doing in classes in MTV, or the sorts of things students might do with an MTV?
So this fall I taught Intro to Data Visualization, and that's kind of like one of the points where a lot of the MTV majors move through. And in that we used a huge data set. I think we had a data set of over 20,000 students, and we worked with a community partner to make sense of what were the graduation rates, what were the retention rates in that data set. And so it was challenging. My favorite feeling about my job is when there's a huge long spreadsheet and it's easy to get lost in, and you have to find the pattern in it. For many people that might be like the worst case scenario of what they want in their course. But this is what a lot of people are doing in the fields of whether you're talking healthcare, business, education, sciences. There's so much data. We live in a data-rich age, but that doesn't always translate to information and intelligence. And so what I really try and teach my students is, how do you ask questions of your data? How do you create a single graph that summarizes the trends that you are seeing in your data? And so I think that's a good example where you're going to be bringing in some of the hard equations and things like that, but you're not doing it for the sake of solving a mathematical formula. You're doing it for the sake of trying to generate insights that can help other people answer their questions. And so a lot of what we're trying to do is kind of add that more human element around what a computer scientist might do in crunching the numbers and providing the pathways to get the data. Now we're trying to tell a story with the data and connect aspects of design and how do you aesthetically choose colors that are appropriate for your viewer, and blend that with the actually representing things appropriately.
I'll just add in there, when you think of math as a major, do you think of like what Caleb just said, like aesthetically choosing colors and visual representation? Like math to me is like boring, but sorry, that's just me. But like that sounds cool and interesting and dynamic and new, and we're looking at community partners like Tableau, and when I think of the Media and Communication Studies degree, you think of a traditional comm degree, and it's like Intro to Public Speaking, Mass Communication. When you look at our degree, there is public speaking, but there's also interactive media and internet GIFs and memes and visual communication and classes that talk about social media and talk about, politics in social media and all of these things, girls on film, gender, human rights in cinema. So they're really bumping against like the future of what's going on in the industry, not stuck in that traditional pathway that a lot of other schools can be, because they're not interdisciplinary and they're very set on that one track.
do our students want to think, is there a project you've been involved in IAS that you learned a new skill, or you gained a new insight maybe into your own skills? Is there something you might want to share about, something like that?
That's a good question.
I don't mean to put you on the spot. You can also just say anything else you want about your major.
Yeah, so there was a project that it was about people with disabilities. So basically, it asked us to do research projects with roommates, and then go out and do research with the people who were with disabilities, and that actually allows us to see things from different perspectives and stuff like that, and it also allows us to see the society like wildly, and not just
Great. What class was that in? Do you remember?
BIS 240, either 5 or 9. Right.
Great, thank you. Do you have a?
Yeah, for me, I think the MCS classes are really fun because you get to be very creative and you have to like push yourself to be out of the box thinking, and also we're talking about like real life issues all the time. Like we're bringing in like what is happening in the world and how we can like think of solutions, and not just learning how to communicate. So like how to communicate within our surroundings is really cool. One, like I think the highlight for me in IAS was being able to participate in the DC Human Rights Seminar, and so that's like a really cool opportunity that it's like an internship that you go to DC for a week with a group of students, and you visit like nonprofits. It's a human rights, so it's like human rights nonprofits and government agencies. You go to Congress. We got to walk the tunnels, which was fun, and you get to like be there, and we go there as researchers, so we have to think of like topics that we're really passionate of. And the cool thing is like you get to choose your topic. So and when you come back, you spend the whole quarter kind of doing an independent study and working on your research. And for me, it was really cool because throughout working on my research, I ended up talking about. I started at the border crisis, and if you can remember, before impeachment, the border crisis. And I ended up going into like the root cause, like what is causing this border crisis, and I focused on like 3 countries in Central America: Honduras, El Salvador, and Guatemala, and the issues of violence and femicide. And really, the MCS major gave me a cool lens to look through and see what is the media showing, and how are we using media to our advantage, and how is it being a disadvantage. So like, having those like lenses, you get to like fine tune those lenses through these classes. So I think that's pretty cool.
Fantastic. So okay, do you know what IAS is yet? Okay, so let's keep it. That's a good question. That's the meta question. So right, it is a little bit confusing, and in lots of colleges you're going to have the School of Business, the School of Education. So IAS is our School of Arts and Sciences, right? You might think of it as our liberal arts college. And when I say liberal arts, it doesn't mean liberal in a kind of political way. It just means a way to engage with the world through lots of different lenses. So IAS is really the liberal arts school of UW-Bothell. And some of the ways I like to think of it is, I like to think of a lot of the liberal arts, whether they be more arts, humanities, social science, or even science, we're often grappling with questions that don't have clear answers. Right? And so I think Caleb's example is great. Like my daughter loves math, and she loves it because actually there is a clear answer. And so for some of you, that might be like, that's what I want. I want the thing where at the end of the class I have the answer. That can be helpful. But in general, in IAS majors, we're grappling with big questions that don't really have answers yet. And so as students, you're confronted with those sort of questions. And I think why we find those important is that that's going to happen throughout your life. You're going to be in any work setting, any life setting, you're going to be confronted with new situations, new questions. And a lot of the skills you'll gain in almost any of the IAS majors are, where does the problem come from? How do you frame it? Who's it relevant to? What do we need to know to move forward with solutions? So I would say those are the sorts of things that run across a lot of our majors. And then of course each major will take that from a different perspective. There will be different skills involved. There will be different sort of core concerns or core questions. do you guys want to, I know you got to go soon, Caleb. Is there any
Yeah.
last thing you got?
So I also I work a bit with the science, technology, and society major up there too. And you know, that's also kind of following this vein of like, okay, we have science over here, but what does that mean for its impact on the world? How is technology shifting the way that society works? So really trying to focus on the intersection between like what's happening in terms of our knowledge in the natural sciences and how does that spread into the other ways of our living. And how do we study that? How would you use a framework to understand those interactions? So I think it fits right into that narrative of, you know, oftentimes we're working in really messy areas, and that's kind of why we need students and scholars to study these things, because you know, the silos of, okay, you go do your science over here, and I'm going to do my math over here, and you go do your journalism over there. Those are really starting to break down in the way our society runs, and we need people to help translate across those and be able to feel comfortable in the middle grounds between those.
And then also like centering the fact that there's a human in all of these problems that we're discussing and trying to solve. Like we are always centering the human experience in the work. Good news, that probably means that this type of work that graduates in IAS are learning to do won't be taken over by robots, right? So like having this type of complex thinking and being able to creatively solve problems and draw on multiple perspectives, keeping that human-centered approach to our work is going to be hard to duplicate as technology makes things more and more automated. You know, and so that's also an exciting, maybe link back to one of the questions about what kind of job can I get? Hopefully not one that will be replaced by machines, right? But also these are, the complex thinking means that you're probably well suited to lead projects, manage teams, collaborate and coordinate people together to solve problems across a variety of different disciplines. And that's exciting work, you know?
Great. Do the students want to say anything more about jobs, if you've been able to think about careers in a different way, if there's been anything about IAS that's supported you in thinking about moving toward that next step of jobs?
Yeah, I think the cool thing about having an IAS degree is you can basically work in almost any sector, if not all. And that was, I really saw that when we went on the human rights seminar, and people think policy, they think straight shot to law school. Well, I still want to go to law school, but you don't have to. There's actually like a lot of things that people were doing that graduates from UW were now working in DC in like a variety of ways, and in the tech industry. They were working in like private firms or nonprofits, and also in policy. So you know, there's a lot of ways that you can use the education that you've achieved like to work for you. And I'd also say like get to know your professors, like get to know your advisors. That's really going to be fundamental in you figuring out, like discovering opportunities. I was a transfer student, so like just the fact that I got to know, I was able to get to know my advisors and my professors really helped me understand the possibilities that you can have with an IAS degree, and also the possibilities you can have while on campus. Just different learning experiences with like extracurricular, or I don't know if they're still called extracurricular, like, yeah, stuff on campus, or like internships or classes that were more interesting for you. So there's just a lot that UW has to offer. You just got to ask questions, I'd say.
Great.
So for me, I mean, I personally think that the degrees in IAS is basically like, it is for any, I mean, like, for major MCS, right, it's Media and Communication Studies, it's basically like fit for any type of jobs. So I would say like, it's not important like which major you pick, but what passion, what kind of passion you have in your art. So basically just take the classes that you like, that you really like. It actually helps you to build your interest, your career and things like that. So.
I think that's really good advice. I mean, it seems sort of weird, but I do think taking classes you like and staying engaged and passionate about school is one of the tricks of getting through school. And frankly, it's one of the tricks of having a successful and happy life, right? So if through college you can find things, you can figure out what you like and follow that path, it's not always a straight shot. And I know there's a lot of pressure, and parents are saying, well, how are you going to get a job in that thing called, MCS. But I think there is a lot of data that says the people who are most successful in the workforce are people who know themselves, actually, are able to know what they're good at and what they're not good at and what they like. And so you might have to push back a little bit at some of the pressures you're feeling from family or society, because there is a lot of data that shows, there's a lot of data out there that says, STEM majors make the most money out of school, or business majors. But actually that same data typically shows that liberal arts majors, maybe in their first few jobs, aren't going to make as much money, but over the course of their life, they're actually going to make more money than people who are coming out of school with technical degrees. Because in fact, they are the people who are going to be asking the critical questions, who are going to be producing new knowledge. So there's a lot of data out there that actually says in the long run, a more liberal arts type education is what's going to get you further. I know that's not the common conversation around the dinner table, and I know parents are always curious, like, what would you do with those? But sometimes going to college is also learning how to have conversations with family members and friends and say, no, this actually makes sense. And I think your advice of, it's not irresponsible to follow your passion, right? That's actually a relatively rational approach, even though I think in this day and age, we don't like to talk in those terms.
If you need help, look up 2018 study by Google called Project Oxygen. It will give you all the language you need to prove that of the top 10 skills that their best managers all across Google have, only one is tech-based. Everything else you can call IAS-based. They don't call it that, I do. It's not in the study.
I'll just add quickly, I also advise on the GWSS major. I have GWSS students that are pre-med. We have students in interdisciplinary arts who are pre-law, because when you love your classes, when you go to class because you love it, when you engage, you're going to get better grades. And plus, when law schools and med schools are accepting students and they've got 300 biology students and 1 gender studies student, that student's going to really stand out. So those are things to think about too.
So I think we're almost at time. Are there any final questions for us? Do you think you know what IAS is a little bit better now? Nice, you did all right. Anything else to add over here?
Just to highlight what my peers were saying, I'm also an advisor in the School of IAS, 4 different other majors, a couple other minors. And y'all have the time right now to explore. You are all pre-major students. So, think about a little bit what you want to do, where you want to go. If you have a set goal in mind, right, to be the doctor, to be that engineer, you can look up those jobs. And when you look up those jobs, look at the desired qualifications. You will see that it is communication, management, working with people, right? Of course, there's the tech skills right there. But the desired qualifications is what they want. So when I have done recommendation letters or calls for my student leaders who have graduated, that was at Wilson back in the day, so a lot of them are now seniors and graduating. When I get that phone call, I know my students are in the final round, that they are the top 3. And now me as their recommendator, they're asking me questions like, can this person work on a team? Tell me about a time when they led a project. Can they, are they good in crisis management? Would I hire this person again? Those are the questions they're asking me. So those are the things that you need to be thinking about right now. How are you gaining those experiences in your coursework while you are studying your discipline, right? So some of y'all may not choose to go IAS, but don't count us out, okay? So definitely look at some of our classes. Y'all need to take BLPAs, natural worlds, diversity. We have a lot of options for internships, research, paid internships, study abroad, right? Those are those awesome opportunities that are going to give you those skills to work with people, work with diverse group settings, problem solving, right? So definitely think about those things as you are doing your academic work, okay? So that's what I would go with.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.